Giants fans, welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green, and it is another episode around mailbag questions that you guys submitted on our most recent community post. And if you want to get into the next New York Giants mailbag where I answer your questions, it's an easy two-step process. First step, you got to be a subscriber. So go down and hit that big red button if you want to be a part of the next New York Giants mailbag, and you need to drop your questions when I ask for them. So go down in the comments right now and drop your questions for next week's mailbag. But the first question coming up on this mailbag, coming from my guy Flagspin, he asked, who can replace Jason Garrett next year? I feel like I've been talking about Jason Garrett getting fired since the beginning of the season, and there's been a lot of different answers that I've seen from you guys in the comments. So I'm going to ask you early on in the show to get involved and get down in the comments because I really want to gauge how this New York Giants fan base feels about Jason Garrett. If you want Jason Garrett fired, go down in the comments and type FG. If you don't want him fired, you can just say, I want Jason Garrett to stay. But I really want to see where you guys stand on Jason Garrett and if you want him back next year as the Giants offensive coordinator. Now let's take a look at some Giants stats this year on offense under Jason Garrett. Yards per game, 334.6, which ranks 21st in the NFL. Points per game, a tick under 20, ranks 24th in the NFL. Passing yards per game, just over 250 yards, in the middle of the pack, 16th in the NFL. Rushing yards per game, 95.9, 23rd in the NFL. And that last one, that's the one that upsets me the most and I think speaks the most volumes about Jason Garrett. You can't make this up, fellas. Red zone TD percentage. Just 44% of the red zone trips this season have resulted in touchdowns, which is the worst in the NFL. Absolutely brutal. I think an offensive play caller and their strategy comes out most in the red zone. And that's where Jason Garrett is struggling the most. But if you answered my earlier question by typing FG, these are three possible Jason Garrett replacements that I cooked up when I was talking to our NFL wizard here at Chat Sports, Tom Downey. First one on the list, and this is probably my number one target, would be Ken Dorsey, the current quarterback coach for the Buffalo Bills. What he's been able to do and the way he's been able to progress Josh Allen has been absolutely amazing. The jump that Josh Allen made from last year to the prior year is absolutely remarkable, and now he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I know everyone wants to credit Brian Daboll for that, but I think Ken Dorsey deserves a lot of that attention and that credit, and that's why I have him on this list. I think him and Daniel Jones could be a good combination, and he could get the best out of Daniel Jones, and I just like the way and the style that the Buffalo Bills run plays and their attitude on offense. It's something I would like this Giants team to do. Candidate number two, replacement number two. I know a lot of you guys are probably, just like my producer did in my ear, which is understandable. Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans, as a head coach, record-wise, he was a good head coach. He had the Texans always competing in the playoffs, but it was when he got too much power and got ability to construct the roster and make trades like the worst trade in NFL history, trading DeAndre Hopkins for a washed-up running back in David Johnson. But he's back at Alabama, being an offensive coordinator, and he is in the Saban school of fixing coaches. I think Bill O'Brien would be a good NFL offensive coordinator. I'm just not sure if that's something he would want. But the fact that he has been a head coach, I do like that with Joe Judge because Joe Judge would give him complete control of the offense. Bill O'Brien, he's my second candidate. The third one, Mike Kafka, the current quarterback coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think his resume speaks for himself. Former NFL player, he knows the NFL locker room, he knows how to connect with players, and what Patrick Mahomes has done as an NFL quarterback so far in his career, I think Kafka deserves a lot of that credit. Him being on the bench his rookie year and then being elevated into the starting role his second year, he worked really, really closely with Kafka, and I want this offensive coordinator to be someone that's going to elevate Daniel Jones to that next level, and I think all three of these guys would do that. But let me know what you think. Give me a name. Be active in the comments. Some people think when I ask these questions, it's just so that I can see and want more comments for YouTube. No. At Chat Sports, we're all about fan interaction between me and you, and I want to see and I want to take the pulse of New York Giants fans. So let me know. Who do you want to replace Jason Garrett? If you want to bet on the next New York Giants offensive coordinator, you could do it with our proud sportsbook partners and sponsor of today's show, BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet, and when you deposit $100, they will give you a 125% deposit bonus. So now you will have $225 in your account to play with and gamble with. If you're unsure about sports betting, you don't have to put your entire paycheck on games. Me and like my producer Jack, we like to put just $5 and $10 on games. It gives us a little more excitement and more engagement into these games. And with the referral code that we're offering you in the bonus chat125, you will get a 125% deposit bonus to do that. So one more time, chatsports.com/bet, promo code chat125. You got to use this link and you got to use the promo code chat125 to get the 125% deposit bonus. This next question coming in from my dad, Fred Green. I called him on the way home from work the other day. We're talking Giants like we always do. He's a lifelong Giants fan. He went to the Giants-Bills Super Bowl, the wide right game, and he told me this. He asked me this. Does Joe Judge deserve more credit for getting this team to where they are? Giants are 2 offside penalties away from being 5-4 despite having injuries all over the offensive line: Barkley, Golladay, Shepard, and Toney. Me and my dad, we go back and forth all the time. He's the Giants apologist. The Giants can't ever do anything wrong in his eyes, and I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I like to hold the Giants organization to a very high standard because that's the standard that they've set. But look, I know I've been harsh on Joe Judge, but I do think he does deserve credit. We are just 2 offsides penalties away from being 5-4. The Kansas City Chief game, that hurts. O'Shane Ximines jumped off sides. Later we caught an interception. It got called back. The Washington football team, they missed the game-winning field goal, and it got called back because we jumped off sides. But this is what I have to say about Joe Judge. As a team, you emulate your head coach and what they are all about. Joe Judge, a no-nonsense, fundamentals, do the little things, don't beat yourself. But that is exactly what the Giants have been so far this season. They continue to shoot themselves in the foot, and they are a team at times that has shown an ability to not be a team that is held up to the highest standard and not a team that is fundamentally sound. But I will give Joe Judge credit because this team sitting at 3-6, with all of the injuries that they have had, Andrew Thomas across the offensive line, all the injuries on the offensive line, for the playmakers, Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, we noted it just a second ago, to have this team at 3-6 and competing for a playoff spot is impressive. So I will give Joe Judge more credit for that. But weigh in for me on this one. Let me know. Get down in the comments once again and let me know how you guys are feeling. Do you want Joe Judge back next year as the Giants head coach? If you do, go down in the comments and type your Y for yes. Or if you don't, go down in the comments and type your N for no. This one coming from my guy, the next one on this New York Giants mailbag, Alzo. He said, "What's up, Marshall? What's up, brother? How you doing, man? How many wins does it take to get to the wild card? Based on current NFC standings and projections, it's a bye week, so let's fantasize." Right, you're right. I'm right there with you, Alzo. It's the bye week, so let's see what the Giants can do the rest of the season. This is the NFC playoff picture. Right now, the Giants, they're fighting for that 7th spot, the NFC wild card. They sit at 3-6, tied with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears. And I think if the Giants can continue to do what they've done, build off of the momentum that they created on Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs and last week against the Las Vegas Raiders, they could be right in the thick of things. But the things that matter the most are the upcoming games and these upcoming games that are coming up. You got Week 11 following the bye week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then you got the Eagles, Dolphins, Chargers, Cowboys. You need to go 3-2 in this stretch to stay alive in the playoff race. If you can go 3-2, I really think you'd be sitting pretty. Anything more than that 4-1, 5-0, that would be absolutely perfect. I don't see that happening, but I do think 3-2 is a realistic goal. I mean, you can beat the Eagles, you can beat the Dolphins, and you can beat the Chargers. Those are 3 very winnable games. The Bucs, that's going to be tough, and it's always tough against the Dallas Cowboys. They did win the first matchup of the season, but in the NFC East, we all know anything could happen. Week 16, 17, and 18, you got to take on the Eagles, Bears, and Washington football team. You could potentially win all 3 of these football games. Could the Giants finish the season, including last week, at a 7-2 record? That would be absolutely beautiful. And I think for the Giants to compete for a playoff spot and compete for that 7th wild card spot, you got to go 7-2 or 6-3 over these final 9 games. But let me know what you have to say. Predict it for me. How many wins will the Giants finish with in the 2021 NFL season? I think it could be anywhere from 7 to 10. I think they could fall anywhere in that range, but I want to know what you have to say. Go down and get your answers. And how many wins will the Giants finish with? This next question coming in from Candy Corn Sucks. This name really gets me going. I think it's funny. Halloween just passed. And my producer, Jack Lotteray, he's a candy corn fan. What a weirdo. But this one, I like this question. Because the Giants, they have a lot of big draft picks coming up. Who is your dream draft target? For me, it's Tyler Linderbaum. And it's not even close. This prospect, he is the best interior offensive line prospect in the 2022 NFL draft class, and he gives me Quentin Nelson vibes. This is an offensive lineman that could come into the Giants and shift the whole culture and mindset of this offensive line. The center is like the quarterback of the offensive line. I love Nick Gates, but he had a nasty injury happen to him this season, and I'm not expecting him to come back 100%, but if he does, as we've seen, Nick Gates, he's played left tackle, he's played right tackle, he's played left guard. He can play anywhere across this offensive line, and he could be that nice sixth offensive lineman off the bench. But Tyler, he is my favorite offensive lineman in this class, and he is my dream target. The Giants, they need to nail the draft coming up this year. You're not going to have a lot of money in free agency to spend, and the Giants, they do have some holes to fix. But when you have, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 premium draft picks like the Giants do coming up in the 2022 NFL draft, that could potentially be 5 starters that you add to this football team this year. And the first round, your own pick, it's number 8 currently in the NFL draft order. Then you have the 9th pick, which came in the Kadarius Toney trade down back in the 2021 NFL draft. That's the 9th pick. Then your own second-round pick, which is the 39th pick. And you also own a pick that is not talked about much about Giants fans, the 3rd-round pick, pick 67 overall via the Miami Dolphins. This is a very, very early 3rd-round pick, and you can get a premium player there. And then in the 3rd round, you have your own pick at pick number 73. If you could get 3 starters out of this group of 5 players, I think you nailed this draft, and the Giants, they could be serious contenders next year. Whether it's Dave Gettleman or somebody else calling the shots in the GM for the New York Giants, they need to nail this draft coming up this year. But Tyler Linderbaum, he is my favorite prospect. You have to address the offensive line. Give me a name. It's early in the draft process, so I know a lot of people may not be scouting prospects, but who is your favorite dream prospect for the Giants to take this coming year in the NFL draft? And guys, hit me up on Twitter. Give me a follow. Send me a DM saying you came from this video. I'm tweeting about the Giants all day long. I'm a Giants fan through and through. I bleed New York Giants blue, and I love talking New York Giants football. So if you want to chop it up, hit me up on Twitter. Send me your Giants questions. Questions that are DM'd to me on Twitter can also be added to mailbags. So if you want to be featured on this next mailbag, send me a DM with a question. Make sure you're a subscriber, and more than likely, your question will be on the next New York Giants mailbag.